Final hour of the show on a Monday, filling in for the injured Barney Shinkarak, who is on the one-game injured list. It's Maz here. Tonight, the wild card weekend will wrap with the Minnesota Vikings in Glendale, Arizona, to take on the LA Rams. The game moved because of the fires. That'll get rolling here just after 7 o'clock. Should be a good game. If you're, as they call it, sprinkling, if you've got your app open, the Vikings 2.5-point favorites. But as we've talked, after what that game against Detroit and how they looked, and Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, a one-game playoff on the road, and they've been there before, I don't know. One thing we do know, the NFL lives at the Canadian Brewhouse with a chance to win a trip to an NFL home opener of your choice. They've got $1 off tankards and Bud Light and Budweiser. Details at thecanadianbrewhouse.com. It is Monday, and so that means another edition of Double Talk with our Grey Cup champion, Plaza of Honor quarterback, Darian Durant. So let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. There's my guy. Happy New Year, my friend. I haven't talked to you in a while. How are you?
Same to you, buddy. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. I love that smile. So here's the thing. I'm watching the Jake Mayer press conference on Friday, and he's saying all the right things because he's coming to Rider Nation and all. Like, it is. Be honest. You may say all the right things, but do you really have no idea what it's like to play quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders until you're in it playing quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders?
Exactly. I mean, there's no comparison around the league. I mean, it's just something about being the QB in Saskatchewan, and especially coming from Calgary. And this is no offense to Stampeder fans, but it's just another level of pressure. It's just another level of atmosphere, environment, you name it, man. So being in Saskatchewan is definitely different. And, you can say all the right things, like you said, but it's nothing like it until you actually get in this, into the fire and see what it's like yourself.
Well, so here's like last year when they were going through their struggles in Calgary, and Calgary's a hockey city. The Flames are number one. Jake Mayer is not going to get harassed going to a grocery store in Calgary, a city of 1.66 million people, when things are all going wrong. Yeah. But as you well know, if you're on a 6 or 7 game seven game losing streak in the middle of a football season last year, there's nowhere to hide, right? When you played here, there was no grocery delivery service. So who did you have to pay to go get groceries with Darian Durant money because things weren't going well? Because there was no delivery back then.
Yeah, I had to wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning and sneak to a 24-hour grocery store. But I mean, it's a little bit different, and not only will you hear it from the fans out in the community, but the media. I mean, the media hears what the rumblings across the fan base. The media knows exactly what's going on, and the media comes directly to you with these tough questions. I mean, in these days of how things are run, it's all about clickbait. It's all about getting eyes on your site or on your story, and controversy sells. So whenever there's a downtime in Rider Nation, you're going to hear from the fans, and the media is going to bring it to you as well.
And probably the other thing that he doesn't realize, which you could probably write a small novel on, is now that he is signed with a certain football team, there is a whole fan base that have blue and gold jerseys that automatically hate this guy, and he's never done a thing to them. He's done nothing at all. But now any Winnipeg Blue Bomber fan has a reason to not like Jake Mayer. I wonder what his messages are already like on Twitter from just random people doing drive-by shots now that he's part of Riderville.
Yeah, you know it's bad. That's how it is.
Some good news coming from the Riders today. I had said this. The most important free agent that they had to sign was Jameer Thurman. They lock him up, 2-year extension. You agree with what J.O. did here, getting a core piece and locking him down?
Absolutely. I think, we talked about this, as free agents, as the season was coming close to ending. And we talked about who are the guys that needed to be re-signed immediately. Who are the guys that the Riders can't be without? And Jameer Thurman was one of those guys. He's the heart and soul of that defense. He's the playmaker. And for Coach Mace, you need a veteran guy at that middle linebacker position. He makes all the calls. He makes the checks. He gets guys lined up. And not only that, he's just a great leader. He's a great locker room guy, great character guy. You don't have to worry about seeing his name in the headlines for anything negative. So whenever you can bring back a huge piece of your team who is just a stand-up guy, and an amazing player at that. You have to do that. So kudos to Jo for making sure that Jameer Thurman stays in Riderville because that would have been a big loss, and he's the absolute heart of that defense.
Yeah, he is. He's 29, he'll be 31 when the deal expires. And if he keeps playing the way he is, there's no reason that, he would stop anytime soon. Riders also making news earlier in the day before the Jameer Thurman signing, a Malik Carney signing, 1 year. I was chatting with Rob Vanstone earlier. I thought the first third of the season, we didn't see the Malik Carney that we saw in the 2/3. Now, some are saying he had some injuries he was dealing with and also picking up the new Corey Mays scheme. But I thought in the final 2/3 of the season, we saw Malik Carney that was a force in Hamilton, and one of the reasons why we signed him as a free agent.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever you have lower body injuries, they just nag you and they take away your explosiveness. And I think when you saw a healthy Malik Carney, you saw what the potential was for him. I had a chance to speak with him. He's a fellow Tar Heel as well. But I had a chance to speak with him when I was in town for Plaza. And, he loves that team. He loves the scheme. It's just all about being healthy for him. So if he can stay healthy, have a good offseason, and be able to contribute week in and week out, I think you'll see a double-digit sack guy, and that's something that the Riders' defense has been missing.
Speaking of double-digit sacks, we've had Charleston Hughes on the show quite a bit, and he's quite disgusted that this past season the sack leaders had 8. He said he would have had that by the 5th or 6th game, let alone that wouldn't lead the season. Oh, you mentioned North Carolina. Just checking. Any calls from Belichick yet?
No, I'm way too small, on a small scale for Belichick, man. But I've talked to some guys in the office that have spoken with him, and what I can say is nothing has changed. Whatever you've seen in New England from just being closed mouth and don't let anything out, and he keeps the emotions in and the temperature of the team. He keeps that under wraps. They say he's the exact same guy. He won't say a word about what's going on, what he's thinking, guys he's interested in. You just see it on ESPN when it pops up, just like everyone else.
Nice.
So,
okay.
I like that about
we're playing
Bill
we're playing our cards close to the vest. So the Darian Durant, Bill Belichick, North Carolina thing. We'll break it first, but we're not there yet. Other news in the CFL today: McLeod Bethel Thompson signs a 1-year deal with Montreal to back up Davis Alexander, who's going to be a first-year starter. Once again, Danny Machocha making another smart football move, and Jason Moss now has an insurance policy for Davis Alexander, and a really good one, because McLeod Bethel Thompson, what did Vanstone say earlier in the show, had over 20 touchdown passes last year? So if anything happens, there's no drop-off there if he has to go into the game.
Not at all. I mean, I think this is the best insurance policy at quarterback in the league. This is a guy who's a Grey Cup champion, has proven that he can play. I don't think the situation was right last year in Edmonton. It was just, coaching turmoil. I mean, just should Trey Ford play? Should he not? As a quarterback, it's just not a good environment. You can't focus. You can't lock in. And then with the pressure of dealing with Chris Jones and not being able to win games, and it was just so much pressure in Edmonton last year. And I think this will be a great start, start over place for Bethel Thompson, and in a situation where your head coach was a quarterback, he understands. So it's a great position to be
in. Speaking of Chris Jones, part of the Chris Jones era here in Saskatchewan, one of the brightest highlights for me was drafting linebacker Cam Judge. And in a bit of a shocker move, on Friday, traded from the Calgary Stampeders to the Toronto Argonauts for American D lineman Fullerin or Malade. This will totally change the ratio in how Toronto is doing, how they're going to play defense. But there's also a rumor out there that they've asked over 20 guys, but they haven't asked, 20 guys have to take pay cuts so they can stay under the salary cap, and this will help with that. I always liked him as a rider. I've liked him as a player. I love how he plays. There's that honesty about him. They're just something. But this is a really good trade for both teams. One that I don't think anybody saw coming, because Ormalade, dude was wrecking he's been wrecking people playing D-line for the past couple of years. Like that's a dominant defensive piece that, like, I wish that we as Rider fans, that we had a guy like that was just wrecking teams and scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to wonder with this move what this says about McManus coming back to Toronto as well. I mean, he's going to definitely command a hefty raise in his salary. And, I think bringing in a veteran like Cam Judge, you want a veteran at one of those linebacker spots. So this says to me that, they may be moving on from McManus. But just like you said, I've always been a Cam Judge fan. I think he played wonderfully in Calgary. I'm surprised to see them let him go because of his production. I mean, he's a linebacker that gets interceptions like DBs, so that's very hard to find. He's has an excellent feel for zone coverage. He understands route concepts. So whenever you can find a player that seems to have a knack for being able to cause turnovers and make plays, that's a special trait. So I was surprised to see Calgary let him go, so a player that makes so many plays for that defense.
So, and I'm wondering, because general managers talk, and it's usually they know who's out there and who's available. I'm wondering, has he been available for a while and the deal just closed, or is this, I wonder if this was just a straight Calgary Toronto transaction, guy for guy, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that? Because I think if Cam Judge kind of hits the open rumor market with a bunch of general managers in the CFL, we'll hold the phone. There may be other teams that are interested. You've always said, since we started doing this, it'll be a year here in a couple of months, that the Saskatchewan Roughriders need a wide receiver, somebody that can take the top off the defense and scare some defenses. And I know that I read a thing on the weekend that the Elks are trying hard to sign a Geno Lewis. Could you imagine how scary our receiving core could be with a guy like a Geno Lewis, even as a decoy? How much space that would open up? Now, if you're general manager and you got the purse strings, would he be at the top of your free agent list as far as wide receivers go, like a game changer for the Riders?
He would be for me. I mean, I'm a guy that firmly believes in order to have success in the CFL, you need to have playmakers. You have to have those 20-plus yard chunk plays and have it on a consistent basis week in and week out. And whenever you have a guy like Geno Lewis, who is just the king of 50-50 balls, he can make plays. He seems to always be able to find the end zone. He has a knack for getting in the end zone and making big plays. So he would definitely be at the top of my priority list. But with him comes a hefty pay tag. And, I don't know if the Riders are in position to do that, especially, with Trevor being back. I'm sure Jameer Thurman was taken care of as well. And there's some other free agents that would command another payday as well. So I'm just not sure if he'd be able to fit under the salary cap, but he's definitely a guy that I give his agent a call and see where his head is and see if it's something that we could do to make it happen, because he's one of those, generational talents that, like I said, just like Cam Judge, a guy who can make plays. Geno Lewis seems to be the exact same way on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, GM Jeremy O'Day said earlier today, was quoted, "You're never going to get all your guys back. It's just not possible." So you know what? What is the cost, or what is the benefit to us winning a Grey Cup as opposed to the cost of going out and getting a guy? If we had to go over or pay the tax or lose that draft pick, because draft picks don't always work out. Winning, like bringing it, what it was like, how life changed bringing a Grey Cup to Rider Nation and what that does to the fan base and to you and everything. So what are you willing to like, you look at the Bombers, or pardon me, the Lions, and it's just egregious. Salary cap, who cares? Whatever. Give it marketing money. I'm sure if we wanted to get on the phone, we could probably get Geno a marketing opportunity to supplement some whatever to come in, because if that's the cost of winning, to making your team from we're okay, we're good, but now we're elite, because you watch way more film than I do, just with him being wherever he is on the field and the coverage he could draw, which can open up something for somebody else, what is that worth? What's the cost of winning? I think that's the big thing.
That's the fine line, and that's what makes the GM job so tough. I mean, if you look at the NBA and the way they do things, you look at the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers when they were winning, the Miami Heat when they had LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh. their owner didn't care about paying the fine at the end of the season. It was all about winning championships. So I think if you know for a fact that you have a team that's able to finish first in the West and could for sure get to the Grey Cup, then I think you throw it out the window and you go all in. But if you have a team that's kind of teetering, whether they're a playoff team or not, then you just can't take the chance and put the team in a bad place financially at the end of the season. So that's what makes being a GM so tough. You have to deal with the good and the bad. You have to deal with losing players if you win. You have to deal with losing players if you're a losing team, because players want to go to a winning environment. So it's a fine line, but I think Saskatchewan definitely has the resources to take care of guys, to make things more lucrative. There are offseason opportunities as well that, if guys would stay around the province in the offseason, it could be very lucrative for them. And I think Saskatchewan needs more guys in the community. I think if the team can show commitment to some of these guys, or more 2 and 3 year deals, when you know a guy is going to be there for years, then it gives guys more of an opportunity to get in the community and get their face out there and be able to do some things off of the field. So Saskatchewan definitely has the best opportunity when it comes to that, and we'll see if it's able to lure some of these free agents in.
I would say I agree with you. After what we saw last year from the Riders, and we kind of know what the team is comprised of now. Last year was 100% wild card. We had no idea what kind of hand we were holding. Whereas now, all right, I think we got as good a shot at anybody going forward, because Winnipeg is not going to not push their chips in. Neither is BC. The Stamps have reloaded. Looks like the Eskimos, like everybody is going all in. All right, let's switch gears. Let's start with some news that maybe hits a little close to home. Tugs at the emotions and the heartstrings for you. Being a Dallas Cowboy fan, it was reported earlier today that Jerry Jones, the Jones family, Jerry World, have decided to part ways with Mike McCarthy. He will become a free agent tomorrow. His contract expires on January 14th to look for other coaching opportunities. Are you sad to see Mike McCarthy go, or did you want him re-signed to be in charge of the Star for another 4 to 5 years?
You know what? I just think that finding a good coach is so hard. And Mike McCarthy is a good coach. It didn't matter if it was Dak Prescott or Cooper Rush or whoever it is. He found ways to win games. And I think that because Jerry Jones and the Jones family, they may be, flirting on the edge of arrogance a little bit. They think that they can just go out and find another guy. And the truth is, it's very hard to do. And you'll see some NFL teams lined up for Mike McCarthy. His resume speaks for itself. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he's won games in Dallas with, he had a great roster 2 years ago, but he still finds ways to win games. And if I'm looking at the Eagles and the Commanders and what they're building, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I may look at this as an opportunity to go elsewhere, because what the Eagles and Commanders have, I don't think Dallas can compete with those teams for the next few years. So it's kind of like a rebuilding situation for Dallas, in that division. So it may be a blessing in disguise for him that the team didn't renew his contract, and he can go elsewhere and try to build with another organization.
To me, I thought the answers to the Cowboy problems. Now, there was no space at the time. The only guy that could come in to handle the Joneses, but because of what an outstanding coach he is and to get that team on the right track, would have been a Sean Payton. Because when you see what he's done with Denver, he by far is the coach of the year. With the dead cap money and the roster he had,
doubt.
Sean Payton is the one guy that could have came in and fixed the Cowboys. Am I wrong in saying that?
But no, you're absolutely right. But the problem is Sean Payton wants power. And when you're dealing with Jerry Jones, you're not going to have a lot of power. Jerry controls the personnel. He controls, everything that goes on with that team. And, and I think that's the problem with that organization. I don't know if you heard Magic Johnson kind of taking a couple shots at Jerry Jones and say, I don't know if it was directly, but indirectly, he was just saying, as an owner, it's our job to hire the people, put them in the right place, trust them to make the personnel decisions. And then we just get out of the way and trust in the guys that we hire. So I wonder if Jerry would just find a good GM and find some guys that he could trust to run Dallas. I think Dallas will be in better shape.
Yeah, there's very few people that could stand up to the Jones family. And the only reason I say Sean Payton is because of the resume. He'd won a Super Bowl, his age, his length of tenure in the NFL. Any of these new guys that they're going to hire, if it's a hot coordinator or somebody coming in, there is no chance that those guys are going to have a say. And within 2 years, they'll probably be fired and out the door, and then the revolving door continues. Although Jerry
Exactly.
Jones getting high praise for his cameo appearance on the TV show Landman last week, where he comes on and he speaks about his family. It's the Taylor
Yeah.
Sheridan show all about the oil business, starring Billy Bob Thornton. When I saw that, I'm like, whoa, that's Jerry Jones. And he talks about family, and it's more important to be close to family than anything else. All right,
Yeah.
wild
That
card
was amazing.
weekend. Um, I there's there's nothing really wild. The teams that won. Probably the crazy stat. There was 6 minutes to go in the third quarter of that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, and Baltimore had already racked up 250 yards rushing. Now, a player's perspective, when you're on the side of the team that just has already rushed for 250 yards, how good of a feeling is that? Because you know you're probably going to win.
Oh, that's amazing. And I mean, if you play defense, you're just loving it because you know they're just melting the clock. They're wearing the other team down. So, I mean that has to be a horrible feeling to just not be able to stop the run in a playoff game. It's cold, it's physical. I mean, you know, there's no worse feeling. So I would love to be on the side of that. And I kind of was, you know, felt that way watching Sheets you know, running the Grey Cup. It's just amazing when you don't have to do much and you just turn around and hand the ball off and let the O line and running backs do their thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people giving Mike Tomlin a lot of grief. People are calling for his job. I think that was his 10th season above 500, but that's 8 straight playoff losses. But they got a lot of high paid guys on defense, like TJ Watt, and that it's like 190 plays he hasn't been involved in, not a tackle, not in like in anything. Their defense let them down. People are blaming Russell
Yeah.
Wilson as well. Russell played okay in the second half. First half wasn't great, but Russ did a little cooking. I wouldn't say he had the full stove on, but there was times where he was doing it, but you could just tell. Um, I mentioned this earlier in the show. Love to get your take. The Baltimore Buffalo game to me could be like the Super Bowl, that whoever wins this game could go on. That may be the toughest game that those two may play, whoever ends up winning to go on. Not that we're discounting Kansas City, because you got to be Kansas City. But that
But
Baltimore
you have to
Buffalo
go to
game,
Kansas City.
I know you have to go to Kansas, but that Baltimore Buffalo game, kind of for the second round, it's almost like this is almost too good of a game to get in the second round. This should almost be like a division final, like a division final, not just,
But
yeah,
this
like it's,
yeah. This is what it's all about though. This is you know, when you have the AFC, we know the AFC is loaded. We know that the best quarterbacks are in the AFC. So, you know, this is what it's all about. The top 4 teams going at it. And when the top 4 teams going at it, when they go at it, you're going to see a clash of two of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So this is a star-studded event that's going to happen this weekend. Hopefully the weather holds up and we don't get a snowy Buffalo weekend and not be able to see you know, a display of talent that these quarterbacks possess. So I think the entire world is looking forward to this matchup because, and you know, we don't even talk about it that much, but these are the two front runners for the MVP. And
yeah.
you know, who knows if this will have any meaningful impact on that decision or from the voters, but you know, especially from the fan side, I think the winner of this game or whoever plays the better game will definitely get the fan nod for MVP.
All right. And so had they not looked so dominant in the second, third, and fourth quarter, the Houston Texans, is there a chance against the Kansas City Chiefs? And keep in mind, Kansas City, to me, they are the best team. They just find ways to win. It's in Kansas City, and the Texans started hot, then they kind of middled off. But by the end of that game against the Chargers, like they were dominant. And D'Amico Ryans, like for whatever it was, there was just no answers out there. Um, if you're a Texans fan, do you even have a glimmer of hope that you're winning? You'd have a chance to win this game against the Chiefs?
You know what? All you can hope for is that Patrick Mahomes is off. You know, I just don't think Houston has the talent to go into Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City and pull off an upset. I like their young talent. I think C.J. Stroud is an amazing quarterback. You know, he's definitely ascending to the top of the ranks for quarterback play in the league. But it's just a different animal. Houston is a warm weather team, warm weather city. Now you have to go outside and deal with the elements of, and then you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, and he has Hollywood Brown back. He has Xavier Worthy. He has so much more speed at the wide receiver position that he's had in previous years. And this is a team that hasn't lost in a while. So I don't think, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't dare put a dime on the Houston Texans. But anything can happen. And Patrick Mahomes tends to hold on to the ball a little bit in the playoffs. He tends to try to fight for extra yards, and so you just never know. Anything can happen, and you're one hit away from being in a situation where you don't like to think or wish injuries on anyone, but the way Patrick Mahomes plays in the playoffs is definitely something you have to worry about.
Well, and I think for the Texans, they got to realize that Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs defense, they also too can win football games. Like they too can be dominant and shut it down. The Commanders at the Lions, the Commanders story right now, Jaden Daniels, the Zane Gonzalez field goal last night. They're the feel-good story against the Lions. Hey, if anybody could do it, because I think what the Lions is, everybody likes them, and they're probably due, but they have to prove it, and they have to do it in a playoff game. I would still take the Lions against the Commanders, but I think that Washington is, you said this early in the season, Washington is better than people are giving them credit for.
Absolutely. I've had an opportunity to not personally be around Dan Quinn, but when my brother played for the Falcons, Dan Quinn was the head coach there, and I just know what he brings, the ability to get the most out of his players. And then if you look at what Jaden Daniels is doing in the fourth quarter of these games, if it's close, it's looking like he has that trait of a guy that is just a winner. It's just, I don't want to put him in the category with Brady yet, but it's looking like if it's a close game and Jaden Daniels has the ball, you can pretty much cash it in that he's going to do whatever it takes to get the win. So this is a scary game for me, but I think with Detroit being at home, home field advantage, and just the way that they've been playing offensively and defensively, I think that it'll just be a little bit too much for the Commanders, and they're a young team, the Commanders, and I think they're very happy to make it to this point. But Detroit is a veteran team, and they have Super Bowl aspirations, and I just think there's tiers to playoff teams, and Detroit is just a tier ahead of the Washington Commanders. Yep.
Lions definitely have the talent. The only thing, like you said, can hurt a talented team like that is turnovers and doing themselves in and making their own mistakes. The Vikings taking on the Rams tonight. The winner of that game will go on to play the Eagles, who, I don't think it was a big surprise. They beat Green Bay. It was kind of underwhelming. So tonight, the LA Rams, and I said, I'll take Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay in a one-game showdown anytime because they've been there. They're winners. They know how to do it. And Minnesota has been a good news story all year until that Detroit game. And then you saw Sam Darnold on multiple third downs not be able to cash in and score touchdowns. That's the Minnesota Viking team I think a lot of fans are worried about, that not taking advantage of opportunities.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't put too much on the way Sam Darnold played against the Detroit Lions. He was due for a bad game. I think he played so well. Expectations are so high for him. And, he just came back down to earth a little bit. But I think with time, time to prepare, you're looking at this Rams team. I like the Rams, and I wouldn't bet against them. But I just think Minnesota has a little bit more talent. They're a little bit more explosive, and they should be the favorites. But whenever you're dealing with a Super Bowl winning coach and quarterback, you should never bet against those guys. But when I look at Minnesota, I've been saying it all season, they're so talented across the board. They have it at every single position, and I think they'll be just a little bit too much for the Rams.
Yeah, well, for the Rams, You're playing with house money. Nobody expected you to be here, so you have nothing, absolutely nothing to lose, and no pressure on you at all. So that's probably a great way to go into a football game. All right, Darian Durant, Double Talk, Western Pizza Guest Hotline. What now? Is it for the kids? Is it homework, and then it's the bedtime routine? Like what does Darian Durant do after he gets off the radio here? Like what are we doing?
Yeah, it's dinner time, getting the kids fed and bath and bed. I'm the type of father, I like to get them straight from the bath, put them in the bed. Don't even let them come back downstairs. No entertainment. Yeah, let's go to sleep.
Nice. No iPads, no TV, nothing. Just straight to bed so dad can watch a little football. I like
Exactly.
that commitment to the game. That'll never go. It's the competitor in Darian. All right, we'll catch up. It's Darian Durant, Double Talk. If you missed any part of our conversation, you can always catch the podcast at sportscage.com. You'll get the full show. And then, Darian, some interesting takes. Intrigued to see how this game is going to... If the Minnesota Vikings do not win tonight, tomorrow when we talk to Arash Madani, the heartache and pain. Arash has been down this road before, like many Vikings fans. It'll be next year country, but it's just like being a Rider fan. It's never an easy pill to swallow, especially when it's fresh. All right, when we take a break, we're going to come back, talk a little AAA hockey. No games tonight, but it was a busy weekend, and we'll get into what's going on in and around Southern Saskatchewan when it comes to the Saskatchewan AAA Hockey League. We'll do that next on the all-new Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.